निर्विकारं सदा पश्यन्ति सूरयः यदिव चक्षुराततम् ॐ पवित्रः पवित्रो वा सर्वावस्थायतोऽपि वा यस्मरेत् पुण्डरीकाक्षं सुभास्यादन्तरहिते
Hare
Jaya प्रेमार्पण समदर्शन जग जन दुख जान नमो नमो प्रभु वाक्य मनादित नमो प्रभु वाक्य मनादित मन वचन मन वचन ज्योति जलरिति कंद तुम्ही तम भंजन प्रभु तुम्ही तम भंजन नमो नमो प्रभु वाक्य मनादित नमो नमो प्रभु वाक्य मनादित मनोवचन कान्हा ज्योति जलरिति कंद तुम्ही तम भंजन प्रभु तुम्ही तम भंजन दे लंग रंग भंग बाजे अंग संग मृदंग दे लंग रंग भंग बाजे अंग संग मृदंग गायत्री छंद भक्त वृंद आरती तमा गायत्री छंद भक्त वृंद आरती तमा जय जय हारती तमा हर हर हारती तमा शिव शिव हारती तमा Should have asked him before. Thought you had better. Good evening. Happy New Year's Eve. Jai Ma. Shall we use a microphone? On account of the sound of this fan may be a little bit noisy, no? Do you want a microphone?
We can hear you fine.
You can hear me? Okay.
Yep.
I thought we would read a little from Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. And then a short reading because tonight we also have our midnight meditation. So, we will do a little bit of reading. I always feel sorry when that song ends. Prakritim Paramam. Do you know about this song? Who composed the song? Swami Mahayogananda. Good. Pop quiz. And he sang it for Mother, and she approved of it also. She liked it. We don't know about the melody. If the melody was composed by Swami Mahayogananda or somebody else, but it's such a beautiful, so many beautiful ideas expressed. That third verse is perfect for us. Vishayam kusumam. The flower. See, this verse is we're addressing our own mind. Our own mind, imagining our mind as a bee, and saying, "Oh mind, those flowers of the pleasures of this world, name and fame, money, power, all these things, give up those flowers. You won't get peace there. Vishayam kusumam, the flowers of those kind of things, ever give those up. And drink the nectar of peace. Where? At those two lotus feet of the mother. There we can drink the mother's feet are also envisioned as lotuses. And if our mind, like a bee, goes to those lotuses and drinks that nectar, that's where we get the peace. That line is particularly apt for all of us, because we're constantly thinking, oh, well, let me just get ahead a little in my career and get a little name and fame. Let me go play the lottery once. Just try, and I'll get peace if I can get a little nest egg for my future. The mother's feet, that's where the nectar of peace is found. Piba bhringamano bhavaroga haram. Piba bringa, drink, O bee of my mind. And that will cure the disease of this world, this disease of misery and suffering and all of that. So it's a very verse, very apropos. So this book, I think most of you are probably very familiar with it. This is the record of the conversations and doings of the great teacher Ramakrishna, Sri Ramakrishna, recorded very carefully by his disciple M. Mahendranath Gupta. And I'm just kind of opening it randomly to a place, and we read a little. And if you have any questions or comments, and then we'll discuss a little. So this is chapter 17, M at Dakshineshwar, Tuesday, December 18, 1883. Sri Ramakrishna was seated in his room with his devotees. He spoke highly of Devendranath Tagore's love of God and renunciation, and then said, pointing to Rakhal and the other young devotees, Devendra is a good man, but blessed indeed are those young aspirants who, like Shukadeva, practice renunciation from their very boyhood and think of God day and night without being involved in worldly life. The worldly man always has some desire or other, though at times he shows much devotion to God. Once, Mathur Babu was entangled in a lawsuit. He said to me in the shrine of Kali, Sir, please offer this flower to the Divine Mother. I offered it unsuspectingly, but he firmly believed that he would attain his objective if I offered the flower. Mathur Babu was, of course, the proprietor of the temple, Kali temple compound at Dakshineshwar for many years. The son-in-law of Rani Rashmani, who founded the temple, and a very wealthy man, very, very wealthy man, but also extremely devoted to Sri Ramakrishna. And he looked on Sri Ramakrishna as his chosen ideal. He looked upon him as God. And at the same time, he looked upon him as his son, and who needed to be taken care of. And so he was being a very wealthy man, and he would get involved in various lawsuits. And so here Sri Ramakrishna had nothing to do with these things. He would, if people would come to him asking for cures for illness or for getting a child or getting their children married or any of those things, he would say, no, this is the wrong place for that. You go to, who would he send them to? What's the name? You go to Achalananda. There was one Swami Achalananda who would tell fortunes and give blessings and medicines and all these things. He would send them to somebody else. He didn't want to have anything to do with those things. His entire aim was to turn people's minds towards that infinite mine of bliss which dwells in every heart. So here Mathur has fooled him. He said, but can you offer this flower? So he offered it. Sri Ramakrishna didn't realize that behind that flower there was, usually he would know, but for some reason here he didn't know, and that there was some desire hidden behind it. It wasn't offered purely for the sake of love, it was offered with the idea that I may win my lawsuit if Sri Ramakrishna offers this flower for me. Now he's going on, he's describing another person. What devotion Rati's mother had. How often she used to come here, and how much she served me. She was a Vaishnava. One day she noticed that I ate the food offered at the Kali temple, and that stopped her coming. Her devotion to God was one-sided. It isn't possible to understand a person right away. This is Sri Ramakrishna came to break this kind of one-sidedness. I had an interesting discussion in the airport in Los Angeles. I sat down in the waiting room, and it was a madhouse. It was so crowded. So we were all wearing masks and all feeling probably a little nervous that we're in a big hall with so many people. But anyhow, so I sat down next to a young man, and I said good morning, and he said good morning. He was very cheerful and asking us about various things, and I ended up asking him, well, what's your calling? I said, I'm a monk. Monk is a kind of a calling. What's your calling? And he said, my calling is to be a Christian. I was very pleased to hear that he was a genuine devotee of Jesus. But then I started poking a little to find out what kind of a devotee of Jesus was he. Was he the kind of devotee that says that Jesus is the only way, and if you don't accept Jesus, well, it won't be good for you afterwards. Turns out he was one of those. Though he wasn't pushing it, and he was a little embarrassed to tell me those things because I was, I guess, older and wiser or something. So he, but it turned out. So I tried to I gave him many of Sri Ramakrishna's parables on the harmony of religions. And I could see that he liked them, but he couldn't reconcile them with the teaching of the Bible. If you take it literally, Jesus says, no one comes to the Father but through me. And I said, well, who do you think he meant by me? And I explained that there's another way to understand it. It doesn't mean Jesus only, the man who lived 2,000 years ago and was crucified and all of that. It doesn't mean, when he's saying me, he doesn't mean that me. He means the big me. He means that infinite me, which is the divine reality, which is manifesting through the body of Jesus, but also through the body of Krishna and through the body of Buddha and all of that. But he wasn't buying it too much. But anyhow, so that's one. He's a genuine, you can see, genuine seeker, genuinely devoted to Jesus and his teachings, and wants to make disciples of Jesus. So like that, Rati's mother here served Sri Ramakrishna a lot. But when she saw that he ate the prasad from the Kali temple, she wanted nothing more to do with it, because that's Dakshineshwar has the speciality of both temple of Mother Kali and also the temple of Radha Krishna, and both temples are there, and both are worship is performed in both temples very carefully and properly. And of course, there's also the 12 Shiva temples. So actually, the Dakshineshwar Kali temple complex is, though it was made before Sri Ramakrishna came there, before anyone knew Sri Ramakrishna, but it also embodies that ideal that Sri Ramakrishna came to teach of the harmony of religions, because it has those three main schools that were prevalent at that time, of the worshippers of Krishna, the worshippers of Divine Mother, and the worshippers of Shiva. So it's a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful temple, and if you haven't been, you should go sometime when you can. when you can. And you see that the devotees of Mother Kali are not necessarily strict vegetarians, but the devotees of Krishna, at least the Orthodox ones, are very strict vegetarians. The Vaishnavas of Bengal, they shouldn't even, not to speak of any animal flesh or fish or eggs. They won't touch onions or garlic either, and oftentimes they won't touch any tea or coffee. Very strict about their diet. So her devotion to Sri Ramakrishna took to its heels when she saw he was eating Mother Kali's prasad. So it's strange. It was winter morning. It was a winter morning, and the master was sitting near the east door of his room, wrapped in his moleskin shawl. He looked at the sun, and suddenly went into samadhi. His eyes stopped blinking, and he lost all consciousness of the outer world. After a long time, he came down to the plane of the sense world. Rakhal, Hazra, M, and other devotees were seated near him. We read again and again in this book how Sri Ramakrishna enters into the state of samadhi, which is a state of absorption in the divine, complete absorption or merging of his mind in the Supreme. A state of mystic union, the Christians might call it. And we read it so many times that we think, oh, he's going into samadhi again. It's a very, very rare experience. And for someone like Sri Ramakrishna, he was established in samadhi. He had to keep his mind pulled down to our level in order to teach us. Whereas most of us are struggling lifelong, and if we get a taste of that once in our life, our life's goal has been fulfilled. So looking at the sun, his mind was reminded of the infinite luminosity and glory of the divine, I am imagining, and therefore his mind became absorbed in the divine. Sri Ramakrishna says to Hazra, the state of samadhi is certainly inspired by love. Once at Shyam Bazar, they arranged a kirtan at Natabar Goswami's house. There I had a vision of Krishna and the gopis of Vrindavan. I felt that my subtle body was walking at Krishna's heels. I went into samadhi when similar devotional songs were sung at the Hari Sabha in Jarashanko in Calcutta. That day they feared I might give up the body. The speciality, it seems to me, of the Leela of Krishna and the gopis is one of that intense love, that intense attraction. That Sri Krishna exerts this inexplicable and indescribable attraction for the gopis and for all of us, actually. And if you go to Vrindavan, or you even if you come here and celebrate Krishna Janmashtami, the birthday of Sri Krishna, as the young Gopal, you can feel that he's the one who attracts us. Krishna is the what's the verbal root there? Naren? To attract, isn't it? Karsh. To attract us, he's pulling us, he's drawing the soul to himself, and that intense love. So here Sri Ramakrishna says, samadhi. What's the goal of how does samadhi come? Of course, there's one kind of samadhi described in the Yoga Sutras of mastering concentration, so that the mind becomes perfectly fixed without any modifications. And then if that is held for a long time, the mind becomes annihilated, as it were, and enters samadhi. But this samadhi, Sri Ramakrishna says, is certainly inspired by love. So through intense love, samadhi also is a thing. And that's certainly such a sweet path to God realization, the path of love, the path of intense love for God. After the master had finished his bath, he again spoke of the ecstatic love of the gopis. He said to M and the other devotees, one should accept the fervent attachment of the gopis to their beloved Krishna. Sing songs like this. Tell me, friend, how far is the grove where Krishna, my beloved, dwells? His fragrance reaches me even here, but I am tired and can walk no farther. Again he sang, I am not going home, O friend, for there it is hard for me to chant my Krishna's name. These are the songs of the gopis, the gopi songs. Again, Sri Ramakrishna had vowed to offer green coconut and sugar to Siddheshwari, the Divine Mother, for Rakhal's welfare. He asked M whether he would pay for the offerings. That afternoon, the master, accompanied by M, Rakhal, and some other devotees, set out in a carriage for the temple of Siddheshwari in Calcutta. On the way, the offerings were purchased. On reaching the temple, the master asked the devotees to offer the fruit and sugar to the Divine Mother. They saw the priests and their friends playing cards in the temple. Sri Ramakrishna said, to play cards in a temple, one should think of God here. Quite interesting. It reminds us of Jesus entering the temple and finding the money changers there. You know the story? Jesus entered the temple and found there's money changers doing their business there, and he kicked them all out. He drove them all out with a big stick. He was so annoyed. Here Sri Ramakrishna didn't go that far, but obviously he's annoyed. And yet the temple, the mother there is awakened, certainly is awakened. And Sri Ramakrishna went there clearly, I think many times probably. Siddheshwari, she who grants perfection. From the temple, the master went to Jadu Mallik's house. Jadu was surrounded by his admirers, well-dressed dandies. He welcomed the master. It's a very interesting relationship between Sri Ramakrishna and Jadu Mallik. He was a very worldly man, and he didn't show Sri Ramakrishna much respect, as most people would do. He could be lying down on a couch, and Sri Ramakrishna would come, and he would turn and say, "Oh, hi, my friend, how you doing? Come on in." But he wouldn't get up from the couch. He'd be lying there. And he'd call him the junior Bhattacharya, the junior priest. "Hey, come on in, how are you doing? I haven't seen you for a while." And they would have some banter back and forth. But he also had genuine devotion to God, to Divine Mother. And so Sri Ramakrishna would come for that reason, and to see the image of the mother that was at his home. And he had a garden house near Dakshineshwar. So Sri Ramakrishna often used to go to the garden there. And the manager of that garden house was a devotee of Sri Ramakrishna, a genuine devotee, and would invite him. He would welcome. He said, "You can come anytime." So he would come. So Jadu would call for him when he came to his garden house and say, "Please sing some songs to the Divine Mother," and Sri Ramakrishna would oblige. But so here he's come, and he was a wealthy man who had a number of flatterers around him, hoping for some payout. So he is surrounded by his admirers. So he welcomed the master, Sri Ramakrishna, with a smile. Why do you keep so many clowns and flatterers with you? He wouldn't mince his words. Can you imagine? Or anybody else getting away with something like that? But Jadu was there, and he said, why do you keep these clowns with you? And Jadu fires right back. He says, that you may liberate them. And there's laughter. Master, flatterers think that the rich man will loosen his purse strings for them, but it is very difficult to get anything from him. Once a jackal saw a bullock and would not give up his company. This is a slightly off-color joke, as Sri Ramakrishna used to tell sometimes. The bullock roamed about, and the jackal followed him. The jackal thought, there hang the bullock's testicles. Sometime or other they will drop to the ground, and I shall eat them. When the bullock slept on the ground, the jackal lay down too. And when the bullock moved about, the jackal followed him. Many days passed in this way, but the bullock's testicles still clung to his body. The jackal went away, disappointed. All laugh. So, Sri Ramakrishna was not afraid to tell a little bit of an off-color joke. And it must have been uproarious laughter at a joke like this. That also happens to flatterers. So it's amazing. Here are these men in Jadu's company, and he tells this story right there with them sitting there. Can you imagine? What boldness and what hilarity, actually. So he says that also happens to flatterers. Flatterers coming to a bull. Jackals coming to a bull. And then that's the end of the chapter. Jadu and his mother served refreshments to Sri Ramakrishna and the devotees. Oh, we can read just a little more. Any comments or questions?
Intense love leads to samadhi. This is the first time I'm hearing Swami. That just now you read.
Yes.
I never heard that intense love can lead to samadhi.
Well, what is samadhi? Samadhi is the mind becoming completely absorbed
Right.
in the object of concentration according to yoga. Now, with intense love, the more you love something, the more you can, or someone, say you love someone intensely, and you are going to think about them all the time. And the perfect example is when a young man falls in love, or a young woman falls in love, and they can't stop thinking about that person. They say all the time whatever they're doing throughout the day, they're thinking of that person. Or a mother with her newborn child, constantly thinking of the child. I'm imagining, and I've heard that when the mother, mother doesn't even like to let anybody else hold the child, except the father maybe is all right. But then some neighbors come over and they also wanted to hold the child, and she'll feel a little uncomfortable. No, that's my baby. She can't stop thinking about the child. So like that love, that intense attachment, if it's turned to God, if it's turned towards the divine, that draws us into the divine.
Yeah, that's the bhakti moment.
Yeah,
That's the bhakti.
that's
How do you get that love?
Yeah, how do you get that love? Sri Ramakrishna, God is love. So the more if we take a step towards God, God takes 10 steps towards us, he used to say.
So we pray for love?
Well, absolutely. Sri Ramakrishna said that's the highest prayer. That's how he used to pray. No, he used to pray. There's that beautiful prayer of Sri Ramakrishna to the Divine Mother for devotion. Do you know it? O Mother, I throw myself on thy mercy. I take shelter at thy hallowed feet. O Mother, I don't want creature comforts. I don't crave name and fame. I don't seek the eight occult powers. Be gracious, Mother, and grant me pure love for thee. A love unsmitten by desire, untainted by any selfish end. A love craved by the devotee for the sake of love alone. And grant me the favor, O Mother, that I may never be deluded by thy world bewitching Maya, that I may never have love for lust and greed, conjured up by thy inscrutable mind. O Mother, there is none but thee whom I may call my own. Mother, I don't know how to worship. I am without austerity. I have neither devotion nor knowledge. Be gracious, Mother, and out of thy infinite mercy, grant me love for thy lotus feet. Prayer of Sri Ramakrishna for love.
Do you have a verse or version?
It's in here. We can look it up. It's in this book. It's a very powerful prayer. And M points out when he records this prayer, he says, then Sri Ramakrishna began to pray. What need of prayer was there for one in constant communion with the divine? Was it not rather that he was teaching us how to pray? So this is a beautiful prayer for devotion from Sri Ramakrishna. And you had a question or a comment?
Yes, what is bhakti?
Bhakti means love for God. Bhakti means devotion. Bhakti. Yeah, this prayer has several elements. First, it has the element of seeking refuge. I throw myself on thy mercy, I take shelter at thy hallowed feet. In the original Bengali, actually, it's just one word. He says, Ma, Ami, Tomar, Sharanagato. Sharanagato. I am Sharanagata. How do you translate that? The perfect translation of that is, I throw myself on thy mercy, I take shelter at thy hallowed feet. It has a dual sense of surrender to the divine, but an active seeking refuge. We go for refuge. We seek refuge in a safe place. Where is that safe place? At the feet of the Divine Mother. Sharanagata. I throw myself on thy mercy. I take shelter at thy hallowed feet. And then it has a practice of discernment. The things I don't want. I've had enough of these things. I don't want any more money and name and fame and power, or even psychic powers that the yogis get, walking on water, reading people's minds, all these things. I don't want any of those things, Mother. What do I want? What do I really want? I really want love. I really want devotion. And not devotion mixed with some other desires. I want it to let me have pure devotion, which doesn't have any other desires mixed with it. Like I want to love you, and you should also give me lots of money. No, that's Hazra's devotion. Our devotion, Sri Ramakrishna says, pray for this devotion unmixed with any other desires. And then a prayer also for protection. May we not get confused. May we not forget our ideal. May we not suddenly think that, hey, maybe working for owning 3 Rolls Royces is not such a bad idea after all. Maybe I should go for that, and after that I'll come to God, or that kind of thing. May we not get confused. And then it's a certain recognition. Oh, then this beautiful line, there is no one but thee whom I may call my own, whom I may truly call my own. Who can we call our own? Someone who is with us forever. Even our near and dear ones, our spouse, our children, we'll be separated one day. But from Mother we won't be separated. From God we won't be separated. So that idea that there's, who can I truly call my own? A God. That doesn't mean that I don't love my family. In fact, I can love them more if I have that deep love for Mother, for Divine Mother. I begin to see Divine Mother in my own spouse, in my children, in my parents. And I have more love, because love is not something that, it's not like money, that the more you give it away, the less you have. Love is the opposite. The more you give it, the more you have to give. So that's the amazing thing about love. And so recognizing I have no one else, and then recognizing we have limitations. To attain the infinite divine, how much have we done? Actually, we haven't done much. As far as lots of intensive meditation, we haven't done it. Lots of tapasya, intense spiritual disciplines. I haven't done it. I don't have much. Actually, I have a little devotion, or I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be praying to you, Mother. But actually, it's not much. It's just a drop. So I'm really at your mercy. I don't have it to attain you, but by your grace, if you can be gracious to me and bless me with your love. So that's the prayer of Sri Ramakrishna for love. Maybe that's enough. That's half an hour. Is it hot in here?
Yes.
Do you feel hot? Yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
So, it's a bit funny. I'm wearing orange because I'm devoted to a woman whose favorite color is orange.
Okay.
So it's just a coincidence that we're both wearing orange.
Okay.
I would like to know why you are wearing orange.
I'm wearing orange because it's the color of the monks in our tradition, and it represents fire. The tradition, there's several different streams that bring this about. The ancient, the monks of ancient times, they would get their clothes, just old discarded clothes, and they might patch them up together and wear something. Well, it might look rather dirty and unkempt, and so they would dye them with clay to this orange color. And then they used to go from house to house to beg their food. They wouldn't cook themselves, they would just rely on, because their whole time, their whole life is devoted to seeking the divine. And so they would beg their food, and so the householders would also give them alms, and to recognize who is genuinely deserving of the alms, well, this orange color represents that. That represents the fire of renunciation that burns up all our desires. So it's interesting. I was going to ask you, are you maybe associated with our some monastic tradition or something? But there's a different cause. That's very interesting. What is your name?
My name is Adam.
Adam. Good. Well, welcome, Adam.
Maharaj, just interestingly, I don't know why they chose Bhagwan, the orange color for prisoners.
Prisoners. I think because it's very bright and easy to see.
If they run away,
if they
yeah.
escape. The idea is if they escape, they can be quickly spotted.
But that
Yeah.
is different color than Bhagwan. That is orange.
Yeah, so it's a bright orange, whereas this is
Yeah,
actually ochre.
This is a different, it's
We call it ochre. Yeah, that's
so,
like,
well, I think you told me that you use the clay to color your clothes,
Yeah.
right?
mhm.
And that's a wonderful job. You do.
Not all the swamis do that. No, most of us, we get too busy, and so we just use some powdered dye. But this is actually the clay color, and then it's been a long time since I dyed it, so gradually it starts to fade as you wash it.
It'll lighten
It gets lighter and lighter, so it's time for a re-dyeing, but I'm lazy. So, but there was a funny story about that, about the prisoners. But which Swami was it? I think it was Swami Mahayogananda in San Francisco. I don't know. It was a Swami who had newly come to America and was suggesting that, for the American Swamis, they could get those orange trousers and shirts and dress in orange like that. And then it was explained to him that, well, actually then it looks like prisoners' dress. And so then when he realized that, he said, not necessary. Never mind. Well, it's New Year's Eve, Happy New Year's Eve. That we're saying goodbye to 2021. And I think most of us will say good riddance. It's been a very, very tough year for everybody, for nearly everybody, I think. With the pandemic and economic uncertainties and losing near and dear ones to a very strange disease, and at the same time in the political arena there's a lot of discord, and there's a lot of concerns about the climate and so many different things. So it's been a very difficult year. So we can say goodbye to 2021, and really 2021 shows us how much the world needs Vedanta, the kind of universal teachings of Vedanta. Not that everyone should convert to Vedanta or something, but that the world needs more people who are willing to live up to the ideals of Vedanta, who are willing to actually try to love everybody, who are willing to actually see everybody with the eye of equality, who are ready to affirm that our true nature is spirit, and that true peace and true happiness comes when we know the divine and not in any other way. And when people are ready to recognize that that divine reality, that divine Lord, that divine Mother dwells in every heart, in every being, that every being is a manifestation of God, and therefore what would be our immediate response? To serve God in the suffering humanity. So that seems to be the call of the hour. So let us, on this New Year's Eve, say goodbye to 2021 and say hello to 2022, and to living up ever more to our calling to be bringers of light and harmony and peace. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat. Sri Ramakrishna. We did a test streaming for the service tomorrow. We streamed it today also. So, goodbye.